Welcome, everyone, especially those of you that have just joined us. This is our fourth presentation of the session that I'm pleased to be introducing today. The talk is titled, Leaving Addiction, Finding Home, Supportive Housing for Those Facing Homelessness and Recovering from Addiction. Please welcome our presenters.
Homelessness among the mentally ill has been gradually increasing since the 1970s, and it is time for a change. My name is Lauren Stay.
Christina Cease.
Dawson Friedauer.
Rebecca Steinkamp.
Zachary Bunders.
And we are leaving addiction, finding home, fighting for a way to rehabilitate homeless individuals back into society. Studies have shown that the longer an individual spends homeless, let alone any time homeless, the more likely they are to experience psychiatric distress and an increase substance abuse, and a decreased chance of recovery from a mental illness. After leaving a rehabilitation facility, if one is even available to them, homeless individuals are often forced back into the same environments in which they came, which is not conducive to a healthy recovery. Without more extensive change, the issue of chronic homelessness will continue to increase throughout the city of Milwaukee, the state of Wisconsin, and nationwide. So why should you care about this issue? First of all, as I stated, it is happening all throughout the country, but it is also happening in Wisconsin, more specifically in the city of Milwaukee. As of January 2020, there were over 4,500 homeless individuals in the state of Wisconsin, and in January 2021, there were 817 homeless individuals in the city of Milwaukee alone. That means that over 18% of the homeless population in Wisconsin is located in Milwaukee. And this is possible that these numbers are also skewed because January is the coldest month of the year and most homeless individuals have already sought shelter at this time, so these numbers should actually be a lot higher than they are stated. Taxes are also another reason why this is important. The average homeless individual costs taxpayers about $35,000 per year, so if we work to decrease homelessness, we can also decrease taxes. So for our solution, we chose to look specifically at chronic homelessness, as more specifically for individuals addicted to opioids. The definition of chronic homelessness is being homeless for at least 1 year or being homeless consistently. It is also common for someone who is chronically homeless to struggle with mental illness or also have substance abuse issues. So this is why we chose to look at chronic homelessness, because we can target the homeless issue along with the opioid addiction problem as well. So more related to opioids, in 2019, 21 out of 100,000 deaths in Wisconsin were caused by opioids, and this number increased to 45 out of 100,000 in just 1 year. Additionally, 15.8% of Wisconsin individuals used an opioid, and 1 out of 20 people had misused an opioid. However, this misuse was not stated of how it was obtained, whether it was from a prescription or not. So attempting to amend this problem is not something that is new, and in fact, there have been many attempts to do so, but many solutions fall short in addressing both of these issues. One will target one problem, but not the other, and Christina will be explaining these further.
All right, so when we looked at previous solutions, we chose to focus on 3: Wisconsin Community Services, Our Safe Place Milwaukee, and the Other Side Academy. First, the Wisconsin Community Services is an organization that provides access to services that support an individual in any situation they may be experiencing. When we looked at the solution, we found 2 main issues. The first being that while the Wisconsin Community Services itself is free, the programs that they provide access to are often not. The second main issue we found was that while these programs are not housed in-house, they do have to find transportation. For homeless individuals, finding and maintaining reliable transportation can prove to be extremely difficult, meaning that they may not be able to continue to utilize those programs. This solution is beneficial for those rehabilitating from drug abuse, but it does not help those that are homeless. Next is Our Safe Place Milwaukee, which is a nonprofit organization that works with those recovering from substance abuse. This program has a strong structural support that utilizes specified visitor times, weekly check-ins, and curfew. While this structure is beneficial to those recovering from drug abuse, it does not, again, help directly with the homeless population. Our last one is the Other Side Academy, which is another nonprofit organization that works with homeless individuals and criminals. This program doesn't use doctors or therapists, and is a free 2-year program. This solution does help those recovering from homelessness, but it does not help those recovering from drug abuse.
In the United States, homelessness is traditionally treated through punitive measures. Punitive punishment is defined as involving, inflicting, or aiming at punishment towards individuals, in this case with legal offenses. The most common acts to be criminalized with homelessness are sleeping, sitting to rest, and sheltering from the elements. Punitive punishment does not work to combat and solve homelessness for many reasons. Living in public often triggers criminal charges, such as loitering or trespassing. But living in public also often commonly triggers civil infractions, like a ticket imposing conditions and requirements, like an order to show up to court, avoid an area for a significant period of time, or pay a fee. These conditions are extremely difficult for chronically homeless individuals who not only lack resources, but are also burdened with secondary disabling conditions to meet. When they cannot do so, because of those conditions such as sickness, lack of money or transportation, mental illness, or some other common barrier, a civil infraction can mutate into a misdemeanor through failure to show up to court or failure to pay provisions. Also, by not having an address, homeless individuals are often unaware of these charges, which can lead to large financial fees and bench warrants. To avoid this issue, we decided to look at other options to help manage chronic homelessness, such as incentive programming. This was suggested to us through an interview with Dr. Julia Maynor, who has a doctorate in cognitive and behavioral psychology, as well as Keely Morikawa, who is a licensed social worker in Salt Lake City, Utah. An incentivized program is a strategy that is used to promote or encourage individuals to perform specific behaviors or actions by providing favorable things that benefit them. An example of this would be a supportive housing program for individuals experiencing homelessness to help take care of them, as well as improve the homeless rates of the community throughout the entire community. After months of research and collaboration, we have proposed a supportive style housing facility in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, to treat chronically homeless individuals who are also addicted to opioids. The solution has multiple steps that are taken before, during, and after treatment, and will be explained in various parts throughout our presentation. We would begin our program by purchasing a 12,000 square foot inactive elementary school in the Sherman Park neighborhood in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. After the renovations, there would be 20 one-bedroom apartments with a kitchenette, a cafeteria, group session areas, counseling offices, as well as counselor living quarters. The facility would house 20 individuals at one time, but will maintain a private wait list, and this will allow for individuals who want to join our program in the future to be able to access their position on the wait list with an estimate of when the program will be available to them. If they decide waiting for an open spot in our program is the right journey in their recovery. Our program is directly related to Froedtert Hospital's drug detoxification program in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The hospital is only 3 miles away from our renovated facility, which will help the transition from detoxification to rehabilitation easier. Homeless individuals will voluntarily check themselves into the detox program at Froedtert Hospital and will be made aware of our program by doctors and other staff members if they qualify. They would then meet with one of our counseling case managers in our facility if they're interested. Voluntary check-ins help increase the individual's intrinsic or self-driven motivation to reach sobriety and stay sober. As mentioned before, we cannot force someone to go through something such as a treatment that they do not want to do.
Our program will be offering the majority of its services in-house, as it is more equitable to keep the residents in one safe location throughout the recovery rather than sending them all across the city for different treatments. This has also been shown to increase the follow-through of residents in utilizing the services and utilizing them appropriately. Of the services included in this program, we would like to include Narcotic Anonymous meetings, free transportation, employment connections, financial literacy seminars, and a facility support animal. Participation in Narcotic Anonymous meetings will be required weekly, as residents can use this time to share the triumphs and struggles of their sobriety and offer suggestions to others in the program. These meetings will be held in the facility, but will also be encouraged elsewhere in the community as well. As for transportation, residents in the program will be offered transportation at no cost to them. This will be funded through grants by the City of Milwaukee, and as long as transportation is being used as part of their recovery. So this could include going to and from appointments, meetings, and employment opportunities. The transportation system will be done through a partnership with the Milwaukee Shuttle System, which offers door-to-door transportation. Funding for this transportation will be done through grants through the Milwaukee Transportation System. Employment is another key aspect in our residents' rehabilitation and recovery. All residents will be required to maintain a position either in the facility or with a partnered business. We would like to partner with companies that have programs used with people with disabilities, such as Pick and Save and Dollar General. Our residents will be able to generate an income and develop a more competitive job history while also learning the skills necessary to be successful in their future employment. We will also include support groups in our facility, as studies have showed that support groups are highly successful in managing the social difficulties of sobriety, and it is always beneficial to have somebody to talk to that understands exactly what you're going through. As a homeless individual, often they do not have a bank account or a steady job. We will have financial literacy seminars that are mandatory to help develop these skills necessary to understand things such as how to pay taxes, apply for a mortgage, or set up a bank account. Residents will also begin to slowly take on financial responsibility while in our program. For example, if rent is $800 a month, when an individual joins our program, they will begin by paying nothing in rent until they have gained a sustainable financial backing. Then, slowly, financial responsibilities will be added to the things that they have to do. So, for example, they would start paying maybe $200 a month based off of their income. And this would slowly increase until they have the ability to pay the entire amount of, let's say, $800. By doing this in a program, in a controlled settings, individuals can become prepared for the financial responsibilities they will have after leaving the program. It is important to note that as a nonprofit organization, none of the bills paid by participants go to the program as a profit, but rather go back towards the services provided as additional funding. We also hope to include a facility animal for the residents in the facility. This can help teach many life skills, such as how to take care of a living being while also balancing your own personal health. Having a facility animal can also be beneficial, as the experience of caring for an animal has therapeutic and rehabilitative benefits. Our solution also incorporates elements of non-punitive or incentive-based programming, as Dawson mentioned earlier. We chose to focus on this traditional solution with the implementation of this incentive programming because of the little improvement shown with punitive punishment programs when working with both homeless and those who are facing addiction. Some of the incentives of using this supportive housing facility include, but are not limited to, easy access to hot and nutritious meals, using the facility as a mailing address, personal spaces that can be locked, a safe place to sleep and to live, and early checkout if the resident feels that they are prepared to move on, with the understanding that they can continue to use our services.
So regarding funding, we are expecting to be classified as a 503c nonprofit organization, which means that we would not receive any profit from this program. So in order to fund it, we would do it in a couple ways. First, we would receive funding from the state and federal government, including through the Department of Health Services and the Department of Children and Families. We are aware, however, of the possibility of not receiving this funding, which is why we also intend to apply for grants such as the Emergency Solutions Grant and the Homelessness Prevention Grants, which are both available in Wisconsin. The amount for those grants do vary, but they are an additional way to fund this program. We would also expect to receive donations as well as establish partnerships with organizations like Pick and Save and Dollar General. In this case, partnerships would be defined as not receiving any financial support from these companies, but rather partnering with them in order to adequately provide the services that our program offers.
When looking to implement this program, the first thing we would need to do is gain funding. As Christina previously mentioned, we would need to apply to be a 503c nonprofit and also look for private donors to help fund the program. After we receive the necessary funding, we will look to renovate and purchase the school. The school itself is in great condition, so our main focus will be turning the building into 20 one-bedroom apartments. Once renovations are complete, we will begin hiring receptionists, counselors, case managers, and other necessary workers. At this time, we will also be looking for our business partnerships with Pick and Save, Dollar General, and any other willing businesses. Advertising will be the next step. Flyers will be handed out at homeless shelters and will be discussed at Freighter Hospital, as Dawson previously explained. The next step is for chronically homeless individuals addicted to opioids to check in to Freighter Hospital's detoxification program. Once they fully go through their detoxification programs, residents will be transferred to our Sherman Park facility, where they will be able to complete the necessary paperwork and be assigned a room and a case manager for the duration of their stay. As Rebecca mentioned earlier in our services provided, we will connect our residents with employment opportunities through our business partnerships. Residents will stay in this program for 1 to 2 years and will then check out once the staff deems they are ready to move back into society. We chose this period of time after meeting with Tina Steinkamp, who is an associate director at PDCR Renda and is also on multidisciplinary teams to address housing and homelessness. She explained that in order to make it possible for individuals to have the resources that they need to be successful, we should expect a minimum of 1 year in the facility. Once they check out, we will work with them to put them in low-income silver living houses. We will also continue to communicate with them to make sure that they are doing well outside of our program. Throughout our research, we met with a total of 4 specialists with knowledge of our solution. The one that we have not mentioned yet is Dr. Ted Wander, who is a psychiatrist at Intermountain Healthcare in Salt Lake City, Utah. He focuses on substance use, abuse, and homeless individuals. He recommended that we implement observed drug testing on all residents. We will begin drug testing them as soon as they come in weekly for the first month, then move on to random 40% drug testing for the rest of their stay. When looking at why this will work, we came down to 3 main reasons: support, resources, and motivation. Supportive housing allows the people in our program to be monitored and also be able to reach out for help when they are in difficult situations. Support groups and other meetings allow them to share their thoughts and experiences, which can help clear their mind. Providing housing and a stable job will help the individuals in our program stay on task. Being able to attend financial literacy seminars and gaining job experiences will help them with their life outside of their program. Being able to use our facility as a mailing address and being allowed to use public transportation is also extremely helpful for people that are in our program. Reaching out to these people while they are internally motivated is crucial. That is why bringing in people after they have checked themselves into detoxification will be the most beneficial, because they will have the needed intrinsic motivation to beat addiction. Also, using incentive-based programming will help reinforce positive behavior, which will help them keep them extrinsically motivated.
So as with any proposed solution, there will always be some barriers that we may encounter, and throughout the research of this project, we have received a lot of questions. We'll be addressing those now. So first of all, will these businesses be willing to partner with us? And the short answer is yes. Simply as Christina has explained earlier, we won't be gaining any financial backing from these companies. They will simply be working with our Leaving Addiction Finding Home to help rehabilitate these individuals back into society. Another question we received is how long this whole process will take. So we're estimating a total of 3 years, and that's including gaining funding as well as the renovations and purchase of the building. So we're guessing about 1 year for funding, such as applying for grants and also achieving the nonprofit status. And then the rest of the 3 years will consist of the renovations as well as the hiring process of receptionists and everyone else that Zach had previously mentioned. And finally, one of the most probable situations that could occur is how we will handle the situation if one of our residents does not want to leave our facility once they have completed the program. And like I said, this is very possible that it could happen because we are sheltering, feeding, and providing a safe space for homeless individuals that were going through something that we are now able to help them with. So if this were to happen, we would first recognize their fears and understand that it can be nerve-wracking to go back to something that was very traumatic to them. However, we will remind them as well that they have gained a lot of skills through such as our seminars, and that they have gained enough skills that we feel that they are ready to go back into society. And again, as Zach mentioned as well, we will not be putting them back on their own. They will be placed in transitional living housing and will keep in contact with their case managers. And they are also aware that they can join back in the wait list for as long as they need until they can get back into the facility. So just to recap everything that has been discussed, our program addresses the root causes of homelessness and the mental illnesses of addiction that come along with it. And by having our patients admit themselves on a voluntary basis, this helps increase the intrinsic motivation to give them the desire to get clean and stay clean from their opioid addiction. Through our program, they will gain necessary life skills through our financial literacy seminars, group sessions, and the work experience to help reacclimate and rehabilitate back into society. And we hope that with these provided opportunities, we can help combat drug addiction within the homeless populations. We want to thank you, and we will now answer any questions that you may have.
Well, thank you for another great presentation. We certainly have time for a few questions or comments. Would anyone like to share any thoughts? All right.
I love this program. How do you deal with individuals in your program that relapse?
Yeah, so we understand that relapse is an inevitable part of recovery. And within the rules set for our facility, we do have a very strict rules against using while in the program. But because we know relapse is bound to happen, we don't necessarily say, okay, you relapsed, you're out of the program. We do have the ability to meet with your case manager, go over what do you need, how can we better help you to get to where you need, what parts are you lacking, what support would you like improved, and how can we help, versus you made a mistake, you're out of the program, if that answers your question.
Great. Are there other questions or comments? All right.
Yeah, I think this is a very connected question to the previous question, but will continued residency and continued services depend on continued drug tests? Is that going to be part of the program, part of kind of a litmus test of continued care?
So, just to clarify, is your question, will we continue to drug test while in the program? Yeah. So, when we talked with Dr. Ted Wander, that was something he encouraged, very random drug testing and frequent drug testing, just to make sure that the residents are continuing with their sobriety. And if a drug test were to come back positively, that's when we would intervene, meet with that individual to determine the next steps.
Great. Are there other questions? All right.
Were there any plans that you had looked at to implement counseling services outside of after residents leave your program?
Yeah, so within our program, when the residents do leave and they have gained all necessary skills, they are still able to use our group sessions and Narcotic Anonymous meetings, since that is something, support is something that you need even when you're outside of the program. So that will still be available for all individuals.
Great. Other questions, comments? Great.
Right here. Okay, so I kind of have a question about this. So I hear that when these people in rehab are moving into, say, like their new apartment or something, that they're paying $0, and that maybe then when they can start making more money or improve, they might be able to pay $200 up to their, say, like $800 rent. How do we know that people might not take advantage of the system and say, I wouldn't want to pay $200 more a month, I'd rather pay $0? How do we know, or what can we do to maybe avoid a system like that where people might take advantage of the system?
Yeah, so the way that would work is based off of their income. So as a participant in this program, we would know your place of employment, and so we would know the amount that you're working and then the amount that you're making. And so we would use that to determine the amount while still allowing you to grow that financial basis. So we would never put too much pressure on the person, like financial responsibility wise, and we would work with them, and the hopes would be that they would also want to work with us so that they can be prepared for when they leave. But along the entire time, we would know the amount of time they are working, and therefore we would know how much they were making.
All right. Other questions or comments? So I have more of a comment than a question. I appreciate that it seems like the vision is to create an environment that these people would want to live in, small apartments and so forth. Oftentimes, facilities for homeless people have kind of a reputation for being not that nice to actually be in, and so sometimes the problem is homeless people actually don't want to take advantage of any of the services and don't get the help they need because of that. So I really appreciated that aspect of it. Unless there are any other final comments or questions from the room, let's give them another round of applause. I just want to thank you all for coming one more time, and have a great afternoon.